That is an amazing summary of Trump, isn't it? Editorializing and accomplishing nothing. Red-faced Trump rages at judge during a historic fraud trial testimony. The former president's attorneys are ordered to control him for his evasive answers. The judge overseeing the trial orders the attorneys to control him for his evasive and meandering answers on the witness stand. Within the first hour, God, there were multiple hours of that. Can you imagine? Ugh. During the first hour of his testimony, the increasingly frustrated Judge Arthur, cool guy, and counsel with the Office of New York Attorney General Letitia James tried to get him to answer questions about his net worth and assets without giving speeches from the stand. His answers are not only non-responsive, they're repetitive. Not only is he not talking about what he's supposed to, he just rambles all over the place about nothing. Over the next several hours, he accused Mrs. James of trying to demean and hurt him politically, slammed her as a political hack, called the case a disgrace, and told a lawyer with Miss James' office that he should be ashamed of himself. Just normal things to do while you're on the witness stand. Gesturing with his hands, his very tiny, tiny hands. As he fumed on the witness stand, he turned his complaints toward the judge. You ruled against me, and you said I was a fraud. He called me a fraud, and he didn't know anything about me. Donald, he didn't call you a fraud. He used evidence in a court case to prove you're a fraud. There's a difference.
There are tons of Trump bucks out there. Just use those to pay law fees.
There's not as many as there used to be. There were a lot, but now there are less. Inflating his net worth by $2 billion a year over a decade. Again, he lies on a much higher level than anybody else. Some people will lie, but this guy will lies in the billion range. Trump berated the case, the judge, and the attorney general as Trump haters in what he has baselessly characterized as a Democrat conspiracy against his return to the White House. His testimony arrived 2 days after the testimony of his sons, Don Jr. and Eric Trump, who both claimed that they had nothing to do with the creation of their father's statements of financial condition, the allegedly fraudulent documents at the center of the case that were provided to financial institutions. They were just something, you would have for yourself if you were borrowing money. They were not really documents that the banks paid much attention to. They just weren't very important element in the bank's decision-making process. And we'll explain that as the trial goes along. Crazy trial as it goes along. Motherfucker, statements of financial condition that have fraud on them were given to banks, and now the banks make decisions based on that number that you have given them. And if you are lying to banks, you are committing fraud. And he just goes up there and says they're not paying much attention to it. That's the only thing they're paying attention to. He testified that those statements are the opposite of the Attorney General's case and much larger than reported, with his allegedly inflated values for his properties omitting the unreported brand value, the Trump brand value, worth a whole bunch of money. Except, it's not. I became president because of my brand value. I sell books at a level that are incredible. He described the Attorney General's case against him as phony things and defrauding banks. There was no victim, and then you say you defrauded them. Judge Engoron interrupted him to address his attorneys. Can you control your client? He says. This is not the political realm. I've asked several times to answer the question. I don't think that we want editorializing. We'll be here forever and accomplish nothing. That is an amazing summary of Trump, isn't it? Editorializing and accomplishing nothing. That's a very good way to describe him.
Worth a whole bunch of money, but constantly asking for money from his rubes.
Exactly. He needs that money. Can you control Mr. Trump? Trump's attorney. You're in control of the courtroom, not me. Judge says, can you control him? And the attorney's like, no, you're in control. At which point Judge Engoron said, I beseech you, control him. If you can't, I will. That means put him in handcuffs and take him out, or make decisions without him being there anymore. This is Trump's lawyer saying this is a situation where you have on the stand a candidate for president of the United States. And so the most efficient way I would ask you to ask the court is to listen to what he has to say, and you weigh it. The court needs to hear what he has to say about these statements and why they're reliable. The judge fired back to that and said, these people are not here to These people are not here to hear what he has to say. They are here to... That's a lot of hears in one sentence, you guys. All right, let's try again. These people are not here to hear what he has to say. He is here to answer questions. Sit down already. This is a very unfair trial, and I hope the public is watching, says Mr. Trump. So he told her to sit down, and she's very upset by that.
You have a right to hire a lawyer who can stand up and say something when they see something wrong. But I was told to sit down today. I was yelled at, and I've had a judge who is unhinged slamming a table. Let me be very clear. I don't tolerate that in my life. I'm not going to tolerate it here. And you know what? You shouldn't either.
Oh no, she got yelled at.
Wow, the projection.
She got yelled at when she was doing a bad thing. The judge yelled at her when she was breaking the rules in the court of law. These are not serious people, but they have nothing to go on. They have no facts. When you have no facts, you have to just play up the drama, and that's what they're going for. Play up the drama. Maximize that drama. Oh, this is the photo. The painting, the drawing, the little painting there. It's very good. We should put that on picket signs and take it to his rallies. He's very good.
Painter is obviously paid off. Those hands are too big.
You might be right. I didn't realize this until I started reading more about it. He's already been found guilty in this trial. It's over. We know that he is. The judge, he ruled from the bench, which Trump's lawyers didn't stop from happening because they're dumb. They're very, very dumb and very bad at their job. They didn't stop the judge from looking at the evidence and making a decision. They didn't stop him from doing so. He legally is allowed to do that. It's called a bench ruling. Happens all the time. If you have smart lawyers, they will stop that from happening. If you have dumb lawyers who are paid poorly and are working to advance their own careers, they might not notice that, and they might goof that up. The judge has already actually found him liable of fraud. What are we doing in this trial then? The judge is determining how much they have to pay for it. This is a sentencing trial. If they brought forth a bunch of intelligent arguments put forth by smart lawyers and put intelligent people up on the stand, the amount they have to pay would be lower, and they might be able to get a business license in New York after that. They didn't do any of that. They put Trump's kids on the stand who are buffoons. They have piss poor lawyers who are paid poorly and don't know what they're doing, and they put Trump on the stand to piss the judge off and violate gag orders. So that makes the
same thing that happened to AJ. It's any easy exercise to claim that it's a shame trial most people don't understand or know about a bench judge.
Yep, it's true. That same things happened to AJ, and that makes the punishment go up. So it's going to get pretty high. It's going to get big, I think. The punishments are going to go way up, and I think it's going to go very badly for him. I didn't even realize that at first. I thought that we were still determining whether or not it happened. It's over. It's done with. We know it happened. Judge said you're guilty, and you are not criminally, but liable for the case. You're liable for the fraud. You're not criminally guilty. That comes next, which is right here. That's happening next. Because guess what?
AJ and Trump are going to have to start a law review podcast.
They're not going to be a law review so much as a lawyer review. I think you got something there though, KVP. They start a lawyer review where they determine who is a good lawyer and who isn't. I think that would be a fun thing for them to do, because they could complain about individual lawyers and how well they did or how bad they did. And then it would be a podcast and we'd all listen. And then they'd go the Spotify route or something like that with Joe Rogan, where you can't watch it on YouTube and stuff like that, so that you would have to pay to be on there. Oh, that would be, they'd make a bunch of money. I don't think they'd make enough for...
Don't Know Shit the podcast.
Don't Know Shit the podcast. Good call. They wouldn't make enough money to pay off AJ's legal bill, but they'd make some. Jack Smith, a new court document. Trump is responsible for the events at the Capitol on January 6th. This is not a good sign for him. This is bad news for Trump. Responding to a motion by Donald Trump's legal team, federal prosecutors on Monday argued allegations related to the events at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th are relevant and probative in the Washington, D.C. case against the former president. So this is all lawyer talk, but the important part here, the Trump legal team argued on October 23rd that because none of the 4 felony counts in the case directly charge Trump with responsibility for the actions of the Capitol, actions at the Capitol on Jan 6th, allegations related to these actions are not relevant and are prejudicial and inflammatory and should be stricken from the indictment. In the response filed on Monday, prosecutors countered by arguing that Trump is in fact responsible for those events. So Trump's legal team says nuh-uh, and then the government legal team says yeah, and this is specifically what they said. The court should recognize the defendant's motion for what it is, a meritless effort to evade the indictment's clear allegation that the defendant is responsible for the events of the Capitol on January 6th. Indeed, that day was the culmination of the defendant's criminal conspiracies to overturn the legitimate results of the presidential election, when the defendant directed a large and angry crowd, one that he had summoned to Washington, D.C., and fueled with knowingly false claims of election fraud, to the Capitol to obstruct the congressional certification proceeding. They are telling us specifically he is responsible for this, and we are going to try to prove that he did it in a court of law. Knowingly false claims of election fraud. That's a large charge. Very large charge. So I think this is all very lawyerly talk, but it is very important, and it is going to happen. It's coming. Oh, hi. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button, press the subscribe button. If you want to tell me how right I am, feel free to leave a comment. If you want to tell me how wrong I am, leave a comment too. That's good. This is just kind of a hobby for me, so I appreciate you coming by, giving it a watch, and pressing the YouTube buttons. Thanks.